Well, I'm really excited about just connecting with you over the next, I don't know, however long it goes, maybe an hour, maybe two.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. One of the things I'll just, introduce, I have Lighthouse Window Cleaning is my company. And you and we met at the Chamber of Commerce, Roseville.
We did.
I think 4 years ago, I believe. And you were just starting your first location over in Roseville. And you hired us to wash the windows.
Right.
So
that's been almost it's been over 5 years now.
5 years.
Since we've been open. Yeah, this is our 6th year in business at Roseville, we're blessed.
Yeah, it's like, and one of the things, because I'm going in and out of all three of your restaurants that we wash your windows, and I'm thinking, this is a well-run operation. And we serve a lot of different commercial clients. And the one thing that I recognize about people that want to take care of their windows is that generally there's layers in the business that are also taken care of, from the people to the involvement in the community. And that's what I want to touch on today is, the culture, the values, community connection. How do you create what you do here? Because I think it's really impressive. And we all know what's happened over the last 5 years, and where a lot of people have shut down, you've opened a new location. So, kudos to you for that.
I think some of that was, no one was planning on what's happened in the last 5 years. No. And so we had plans and capital commitments for the first 2 restaurants, and then COVID happened, right? So we had to deal with that, even though we had made commitments that if we had looked back on, we maybe would have not made the second commitment, because we couldn't open for a year or two down in Sacramento. It was a trial in time, right? But it was good. So, with my wife, Susan, and my business partner, Craig Cunningham, we've, every one of us has worked probably every day, as you well know, as an entrepreneur, to build what we're building, right? And we realize we have to work every day, every day. Yeah, every day.
And
keep working every day.
Keep delivering.
Delivering.
And you have to do a good job. My wife and I were here. We were going to see Jerry Seinfeld, and we came here and had dinner. And there's a feeling when you walk in, you're greeted. There's a welcoming energy. And you can tell when you walk into a business, there's either you get a feel or you get an energy. And we've always had a positive energy from when we're serving you, washing your windows, to actually being a client. Any thoughts on what creates that energy and how do you maintain that?
Well, I have a lot of energy, and unfortunately, if you work with me, you have to deal with that energy, right? And mostly it's very positive because that's the way I am. But there are things that I've learned a long time ago in this particular business is that everybody that comes and goes matters, and everybody has to say, sometimes it's silly. You walk in, you get hello 3 times, you go, really? But no one knows if the last person did it or goodbye. And everyone's like, and nothing drives us crazier than the phone ringing more than 2 or 3 times and no one saying hello and no one saying goodbye. And where, some people wouldn't staff the front desk. I'm always complaining that there's not enough staff at the front desk. And I know in today's world, we're trying always to watch our costs, especially in California. It's so expensive to have labor. But what's most important is growing business. And you can't grow a business without the fundamentals. And to me, the fundamental is hospitality, graciousness, really pretending like, or really thinking and having a belief that when you come into our restaurant, it's like if you're coming to my house. Yeah. I wouldn't just say come over for dinner and then when you ring the doorbell, just come in. No. You go open the door. How are you? It's great to see. Same thing we try to exhibit here. We really try to do that.
Yeah. I know at our house when we have family reunions, we all get together and you say goodbye, but then an hour later you're still at the front door saying goodbye. Eventually you come back and sit down in a restaurant, maybe come back and you sit down and have a cocktail. Dinner.
Right. So we're that's kind of where the genesis is really about taking care of people like we would like to be taken care of.
Yeah. So a little bit about your background. Now you're the owner of 3 restaurants, Bennett's Hospitality Group. Take me back to kind of your career history and what brings you to this.
Well, we have a lot of local partners that have helped us form this business, and we're thankful to them and always beholden to making sure that our investors and shareholders get recognized. My career really spans A long time. I mean, I've been doing the trade and learning the trade for a long time. I was a butcher for the Ancient Mariner Rusty Pelican Corporation, one of my first, real, jobs that was serious in this business. I mean, before I got serious, I had a lot of jobs, but that was the first real serious with real mentors and people that focused in the business. And then the Hotel Mac in Point Richmond, California in 1979, which the first big restaurant we opened as a chef. And then after that, really, went to the Olive Garden for a couple of years as they were very small and still developing. And
right.
when they told me they were going to open a restaurant a week, I kind of chuckled and said, there's no way. And then they proved me wrong. And they continue to do, $6 or $7 billion a year.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then after that,
Alfredo sauce on anything, and people will come
for 75 cents or $2 now. Right? It used to be free. I think they figured that gig out now. They try to sell you Alfredo sauce with breadsticks. And then from there it was Mr. Simmons, who started Chevy's.
Yeah,
was a neighbor of my mom's, and said, "Why don't you come back and live?" in the Bay Area, and I'll build you a Mexican restaurant. And that was the last thing I ever wanted to do, was run a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
And I was blessed to be there 17 and a half years and help grow that business from like 6 restaurants to 145 nationally. And it really was, exciting time of our life. Yeah. So that was exciting. And then, as all things do, that came to an end. And then we started Paul Martin's with my partner, Paul Fleming, and Paul Martin's, their first restaurant was here in Roseville, so I could be close to home. And then, off we went. And, looking back in time, I spent so much time on the road opening restaurants with other people for other people that we kind of decided that for now we wanted to open restaurants within 30 minutes of our home.
Right. Good.
That we could be proud of, and that no matter how big we got, you couldn't take the core values from us, because as those other companies grew, their core values changed as different owners, different people got involved. So the local store marketing, the way we were always involved in the community, goes away when there's financial pressure. They say, we're not going to do that. Exactly. We're not going to do that. We're not going to. And I understand that part, but when I live in a community, I don't understand it at all. Right. So we decided that with this venture that we would try to balance what we're doing and still be able to support the community.
Good.
Right. So here we are.
And it's sort of reflecting, like I've as a window cleaning company, I started 17 years ago, but before that I was also in the restaurant business. And so I kind of have the awareness of, when I say, both sides of the glass. I know what goes on inside versus keeping the glass clean on the outside. But I had worked for Starbucks Coffee, Chipotle Mexican Grill, REI, and you see these brands, but I totally understand what you mean. Like, as you're working for a brand, you find yourself wanting to, still have that connection to community, but often the dollar. I don't know. This maybe a good question at this point would be, when you leave the corporate world and start our own business, are there things? Well, I'll speak for myself first. I think of things that, one, what do you want to keep? And you want to keep systems, you want to keep quality, but there's things you want to leave behind that is, I don't know, there are initiatives where, we made a mistake in the budget, so we're not going to give raises this year. We're only going to go 25 cents an hour raise because our budget was off. And I was like, well, that's just not right. I find myself in these dilemmas working in the corporate world where you want to take care of your people, but more about the dollar is, so these things often are just crisscrossing. And I remember one of the organizations I was working with had the 5 ways of being, and one of them was be genuine. And then they had this whole little book about how to be genuine. I'm like, that's not genuine.
Right.
But anyway.
But you have to create jobs for the people in marketing and that, or whatever the operation support. So that's their job, to come up with those pamphlets, which then we have to preach, go around and tell people to be genuine. Rather, can you just answer the door, get to the front door and answer the phone? I mean, it's really simple. In our restaurants, in our business is pretty simple. In the restaurant business, I mean, you have to be genuine to people.
Sure.
The rest doesn't hello and goodbye and how are you and can I make sure that gets taken care of, and taking care of people like you'd want them to take care of your grandma, right? I mean, if your grandmother came, to the restaurant, would we take extra time to seat her because she's Mrs. or Mr. Bennett's grandma? Of course you would. So why wouldn't you do that to every grandma that came? Yeah. Make sure that they are comfortable and they get taken care of. I mean, I think that stuff matters a lot, and that's being genuine in our business, right?
That's like family, like you said, just like someone coming to your door. Anything that you would like when you think about the corporate world that you're like, don't do, being in your own business, that you maybe leave behind versus?
Yeah, to my own detriment.
Yeah.
I'm not really a meeting guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not sure. I'd rather, if you have things to talk to me about, come to the restaurant Friday night and follow me around and talk to me while we interact. The whole sitting down, having hours of meetings, and I used to fly to places to have meetings, and I could spend, hours, somebody prepping me for a meeting or writing meetings. And it always seems to me like there's too many meetings and not enough go, right?
Right.
Like, let's go and we'll figure out what we're doing. And probably to my detriment, I probably should have some more meetings, and I should be a better listener because, I was always a terrible listener. So it was really hard for me to go to meetings anyway, because my mind would start drifting about things I really needed to do, and I needed to be present. But I think meetings are the first thing that I
read something once, if you're having a meeting, no chairs.
Right.
You stand up and you keep it within 15 minutes.
Because everyone will get, there's no chairs, no water,
no food.
Let's
just get it done. What do you call it? It's like an info dump. Yeah. Here we go. Learn.
But the internet and how people communicate is completely changed today. And they like to do Zoom calls, which I still don't have a camera, so I'll happily get on a Zoom call.
Yep.
But you're not seeing me ever. I'm not here. There's no cameras. I don't have a camera.
Yeah.
I have big monitors. I can see you very well, but I'm not being seen.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff goes away. I miss, when you shrink, I miss a bit of a collaboration with more senior people, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of by yourself. You don't have another somebody else that's kind of on your level that you can talk with, that has so you have to go outside of your world, which I'm not very good at either,
right?
And find somebody else that's that way, because my excuse is always that I've got other things to do, and if I have time, I'm going to try to spend it with my family, which I've been terrible about for so many years because I was on the road all the time.
Right.
So.
And now all your 3 locations are within a half a mile from your house.
Half an hour from my house. So I can get to the restaurants and still get home. And I don't have to spend the night in a hotel.
Yeah.
Unless I choose to.
Right.
Right.
And I think it's one thing, when I worked for REI, they had a big emphasis on work-life balance and being able to play as well as work. What do you do when you're not working? What do you like to do?
Well, that'd be a great question. I like to go to the wine country and check out what's new. I like to spend time, with my wife. We like to play golf a little bit. She's a much better golfer than I am. I don't play that often. And my daughter likes to play golf. So, we're not good, but as a family, we like to go to the beach. So we try to get to San Diego or to La Jolla.
Okay.
A couple times a year. And other than that, really, I like to be in the restaurants. I like the energy that I get from and I know it's good not to. We like to cook at home a little bit, but
how much time are you in your restaurants versus out doing your own thing? Is there balance?
In the restaurants, because I have such great operating partners that are in everyone operating, and a great partner in Craig Cunningham, who's really in charge of the day-to-day operations. I may be in the restaurants 20 hours a week.
Okay.
But, then I've got 30 hours of office time, which is, not my real gig. But as we develop our company, it's coming more and more my gig and less in the restaurants. So it goes up and down. Like this weekend, I'll be in the restaurants a lot because Craig's not in town this weekend. So I'm going to be to the detriment of my staff. They go, really? He has to be here the whole shift.
Well, that's, I guess I had a manager once, and he told me, hire people better than you and get out of their way.
Right.
And I like to be hands-on, but I'm learning to be more hands-off if that's had a situation in 2020 where my daughter went to Hawaii and she was in a car accident. And I got the call, and she was in the hospital and was going to be there a while. And like, I guess I'm leaving tomorrow for Hawaii. And it was an eye-opener for me, because it was like, well, what about my business? And my operations manager, Dave, said, we got it. And my office manager, Tessie, says, we got it. Leave. And I'm like, but, and I left. And my son was there. He was helping out, and he could do payroll, and actually talked to him how to do payroll over the phone. And everything went like really well. I'm like, oh, am I really need to be that involved? And in the 3 weeks, you know how many calls I got? 0. No calls. So that was sort of like this eye opener is, do we have people in place in our business that if we wanted to take time or go to La Jolla or do other things that we want to do, that, the business can still run.
Well, I think as entrepreneurs, we don't think anyone can do our job.
Yeah, I know.
Right. And I had a life change a couple of years ago, or a year ago now, where I just was not working. And the doctor told me, you're not working for 6 months. And it came as a sudden shock, and they did better.
Yes.
The restaurants ran better. Mm-hmm. No one's waiting for me to second guess them, because I am opinionated. If you know me, I have an opinion about anything that happens in our restaurant. So now I have less of an opinion other than great job.
Right.
And trying to learn a new role for myself, which really is to get out of their way. I can provide the vision, and then just get out of their way and let them do it. And they're much better at it.
Yeah.
They're much better at it than I knew they were that good, but I never gave them a chance to be that good. And now they proved to me they're that good. And it's a blessing. Yeah. So there are a lot of things that have happened in this last year that make it even better to be here today.
It's funny, we've had these similar paths where, brings us to, not feeling like everything is dependent on us.
Right.
Yeah, that's 2019, you opened Roseville. 2020, you opened Fair Oaks. And then, was it last July, you have, where we are now. We're in the Lone Tree location.
Right. August of 2020, what is today? August 24?
Yeah.
August of 23. Well, it'll be 2 years in August already.
Yeah. Do you find as you've added more stores or more locations, in some ways people say as you get larger, your job can become easier because there's more people, you have somebody overseeing each location. Has it gotten easier or has it gotten more difficult?
It just got different.
Yeah. Different.
It gets different, right? Because when you have one restaurant, you could be in it all the time. I mean, you could actually be there every day, every shift, look at stuff, talk about stuff, coach people, all constantly ongoing. Well, then you have 2, then you have 3, and that really goes away, right? I mean, we go and coach. This week we have new items coming out, so I've been in the restaurants really looking at the new food to make sure it's the way we envision it, the way we want it to be. But the guys have to make it happen. The women and men that run our restaurants, they have to go take care of the business, not me. Right. My job's done now. I dreamed it up. We created the recipes, got them in all that kind of stuff, work with the team to get the product where it is now. It's, my job to follow up and make sure it's right, but it's really their job to execute. And as you get bigger, which is not something we necessarily aspire to do, you have to add more layers, right? Next is a food guy person whose only job is to look at food and to work with me so that I can be less involved in food, but I want to be involved in food. So, you have, as you grow, things happen, right? And it's not just the growth that drives the growth. You have to consider all the other things that you're going to have to do when you add the fourth. People ask, when are you going to build your fourth one? I go, we're not done building the third one yet. We still don't open the door perfectly. Every guest that comes in those 3 restaurants, we still don't answer the phone right. There's a lot of things we don't do. So why don't we just focus on the 3 we have and develop some people from within? So if we grow, we have the people that work for us already that we can give opportunities to, right? And so that's part of, growing. It's like, how do we do this?
Yeah. That's right. I mean, sort of a parallel. As I think, people say, we going to add, how many vans do you want? Right now we're about, 7 teams out every day.
Right.
But it's like, well, what about, do you want to double? Do you want to, I'm like, I just want to make a living, and I want to do, more importantly, and I'm training some new guys right now. It's like, I just want to teach you how to do a great job, but that doesn't make you good at what you do. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are. And like when we come and wash the windows, I don't want to just have the splash and dash guys coming to do it. I want them, there's a connection. Do we connect with your managers every time and go, make sure you're 100% satisfied with every single job and those connections. I don't know, you do that too with your, when we came in, we were greeted by your hostess. The person serving us knew that we were kind of had a deadline to make it to the Jerry Seinfeld, and they were sensitive to that. And there's this awareness. Same thing when you go, and I think we washed your house before. And
right.
If there's meetings, a lot of people working from home, and you have meetings, and just being aware of what's going on in the environment is every day is different. Every moment is different. Being able to adapt. But I want to talk a little bit about culture. And I was talking to one of my friends, longtime friend, Floyd Royce, who, when I brought him up last time you and I were talking, you're like, I remember Floyd. He was one of the good ones. So I actually tried to get him to show up today for a cameo for this conversation. And he said, he goes, I would love to do that. But something that Floyd Royce said about you, Brian, and I think is really, telling of kind of person that you are and how you lead. He says, Brian Bennett was about us. He wanted to develop people and see people grow. And he says, I've had very few managers in my life that I feel that way about. And Floyd has worked for different companies.
Right.
So, compliments to you. I think
that's nice to hear. Thank you, Floyd.
Yeah. So Floyd, I know you're listening to this and you should be here, but yeah, I was going to surprise you with a Floyd Royce.
That'd have been nice. I haven't seen him quite a bit.
Yeah.
Probably 20 years, maybe longer.
Well, if I could maybe put you on the spot here, do you recall like you see people that have potential, and how do you what do you recognize in people that you want to see? I want that person's going to be my next manager. And I've had situations where, you hire somebody as your, frontline cook or hostess, and you're like, that person's that has potential. Maybe walk me through, somebody that you've recognized and seen grow within.
Oh, there's so many people that we've seen grow in our business, and how do you recognize their ability? Most of the time you hire younger people, right?
Yeah.
By that, I mean people that are 21 to 24, kind of wandering around. They get hired into the restaurant because it's an easy in to start. Mm-hmm. And then what do I see is like when someone's serious, how do I tell they're serious? When they're respectful to the people that they work with and those around them, and they listen, right? So when they're taught how to answer the phone or open the front door, say they start as a host or a hostess, that you're not repeating yourself, that they listen to what you said, mm-hmm. and then they go do it, right? The same with the people that start as food runners. They come in, they don't know anything about our food, and you start talking to them, and you come back 3 weeks later, and they go, "What's that?" They can tell you what's that, and what's this, that they're absorbing the information because they care to absorb that information, and they want to be successful. And then, they get the opportunity. There's so much opportunity right now. Craig is developing, I think he has 5 young people that are responsible, that help us in different restaurants at different times, mm-hmm. to be supervisors, that that know the procedures, that know how to respond at the end of the night or the pre-opening, how to do things the way that we like things done. And all of these people can continue to develop.
Yeah.
And we find that it's much easier, though a little longer, to develop people from within, because then they already have the culture. They're part of our culture, right? And part of the culture is do a great job so Mr. B is not around a lot. So that's part of the culture. Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But their culture is part of, being serious about the food we serve and and have some fun, and make the company, make everybody here feel like we're having a good time.
Yep.
And at the same time, we have to be productive, right? We have to make money.
Right.
We can't have waste. We can't, so all those things go together. And when you become part of the culture, it's easy to do, but it's not easy to do. There's, you have to work when you have to work, right?
Yep.
Now I know, because I'm a little older, that when when they hired me, when I was a manager, I was working 60 or 70 hours. Today, they're not working that. And if you expect that, that's you're not going to get
it. No.
Because they have a
different culture now.
Much different culture.
Yeah.
That's hard for me. I still have to remind myself that I'm in 2025.
Well, you've shared that in previous conversations with me, is like when you worked for some of these companies, you worked hard, and you worked harder than anybody else.
Well, we worked longer than everybody did, but then if I'm going to work, I might as well work harder.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to get ahead. And the people that work harder always get ahead. They always get it. Even there's people smarter than me, but they wouldn't put in the time.
Yeah.
Because they were smarter. So they could just get through it.
Yeah.
But if I work really hard the way I am, I learn it because I worked. So I may not be as smart as you, but I'll eventually learn what you know, and then I'll just pass you by because I have worked really hard.
Right.
My partner Craig is the same way. We just, we laugh at each other because we just keep working.
We want to work hard.
Right. Yeah. We want to work hard, and we want to see results.
One time, my kids had to write an essay about their family. And I think it's third grade. When you're, tell us about your family. My daughter opens the essay with, "My mom is smart and my dad works hard." And they went on to say, "No, Dad, what we meant was, you're more street smart and Mom is more book smart." So anyway, this is one of those. But yeah, it's a combination of hard work and being intelligent and making intelligent decisions.
And all of that is learned, right? You learn it.
Yeah.
Because you want to.
Well, you have over 1,000 5-star reviews online. And do you celebrate those with your team, or I know we've been talking a lot about the quality, but how do you continue to, in 3 locations, to have that kind of reputation?
I know we try really hard. Yeah. I mean, we talk about it constantly.
I know you have clean windows, so that helps.
Well, it does help because it sets a tone. I mean, I'm very old school, and it starts with if you parked your car out there, you walked in today, what? Are the grounds clean going to the front door? So wherever I am, I always pick up, I make a point to pick up something when I come in. And I'm not telling the people at the front desk, but I'm making sure they see me throw trash away, because it's like, if I could do it, so could you, right?
Right.
And an old mentor of mine, John Slike, said, you got to look at it from the outside in. Is the parking lot clean? Set this nonverbal communication to the guests. Is the parking lot clean? Are the windows clean? Are the windows clean? When you come in the front door, does someone say hello and goodbye? Are we answering the phone the proper way? Before people get even past a hostess, we've already had a bunch of these triggers that we want them to have. You look around this restaurant and all the wine glasses are lined up. There's a reason for that. Yeah. Because I think it puts people at ease subconsciously. They're greeted and they're at ease, as opposed to a tabletop that's not set properly.
Subtle little things like that.
Subtle things.
When you're looking at chairs, the chairs should be at an angle, so people scoot in.
And I never stop talking about it. And people, God, so he talks about us one more time about where the silverware goes and where the chairs goes, because I never end. Because if you stop, it stops.
Yeah,
you have to talk about it, right? And our managers, the people that run our restaurants, our operating partners, they do a great job, and they're competitive.
Yeah,
and we talk about it twice a week. I get, every day we look at every review. You can read in a review that people are just being people, or they have a serious a serious comment that you go, you know what? That person is only complaining or talking about one particular item that we had better control of.
Yep.
So if that happens, generally the next day, I'm probably in that restaurant, and I'm only looking at, I'm only going there and seeing, why is that chicken enchilada salty? Because it's impossible.
Yeah.
Because we don't,
Sure.
but something happens. So I
Something
go,
happened.
we taste it, make sure it's not salty. It's not salty. Maybe it was their particular thing. Maybe we made a mistake. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But if it's not salty, I'm happy, and on we go to the next. And if it's salty, then somebody's not following the recipe right, and we can go immediately and make sure it's right.
Yeah, and there's a phrase, don't manage the exception. And sometimes it might have been that one person's taste, but you also have to look at it and you have to address it.
You have to acknowledge the
And
exception.
you also have to acknowledge that not everything is going to be perfect every time. That's the goal.
Right.
But I had a situation where we do callbacks to all of our customers. So we clean your house. You're going to get a call within the next couple of days. You go, we want to make sure everything is perfect and you're 100% happy. And that phone call where you go, everything was okay. Everything was good. But that there's a but coming. And she was, I wish he was more careful because he had knocked over a pineapple. It was a glass pineapple decoration on a patio. And she says, it's no big deal, but I just wanted to let you know. And he talked to her about it and everything. And I went online and I found this same pineapple. And I sent it to her. This is on Cody Court in Rocklin. And she couldn't believe that it was a $20 item.
Right.
And now she put the new pineapple on there. She told her neighbors, Sue and Bill and Bob and Marla and Ellen and Joyce. I can think of all of the people would wash windows for on Cody Court. And that was like when I first started my business. And when I go there, they still talk about the pineapple. In the course of the last 17 years, we've done $20,000 worth of work on Cody Court. I call it the $20,000 pineapple because you take something and you fix it if it doesn't go right. But anyway, that kind of got off on a tangent,
because we try to teach, if the managers get to the tables, this is one of the things we try to do. And I think they should be there 100% of the time. And I hate to say this publicly, but I know there's exception reasons they can't.
Yeah.
But we want them to. But even so we can correct them. If something's not cooked right, let me replace it. If something's not right, let me manage the exception today. I don't want you to write it. I want you to write the review that said, my steak was overcooked, but they replaced it and I'm happy. Yeah. Then I go,
that's 5-star.
Well, even if it's a 3-star, it's a 5-star in my heart because we took care of that. We didn't let them leave the building without us owning the issue.
Yes.
We have to own what our actions. If we made a mistake, we have to say, I'm sorry, I am sorry we did that.
Exactly.
What can I do to make it better?
Yep.
And let them tell us.
Yeah.
Sometimes say, you could buy our entire dinner. Okay. No, we don't want to do that. Yeah. But if that's going to make them happy, sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Mostly people are so thankful that we care enough to even want to take care of them.
Yeah.
That they're like, hey, maybe you could just, could you make me another steak? And I don't care if I wait. I know it's going to take a minute, but whatever.
Yeah. Kind of gets to where a term I use is like an investment in reputation.
Yep.
This time, sometimes, you're going to comp the meal because they're going to remember that. If it didn't go
reputation is really important, right? So it's part of how we build our business. It is why we're involved in the community so much, and we try to do as many events as we possibly can and participate in things as much as we can in the community. And everybody wants us to do everything because we're active. We can't, and we're sorry, but there are some people that get better treatment because we've been working with them for so long that they kind of have a place in our hearts. But we try to be a lot of places, and we try to donate to a lot of causes, part of which is so people in the community will give us a try and say, like, every time I go to a benefit, those people are here. We should go try what they have to offer. And
good segue, because we were going to talk about community, which is where you and I met at the Roseville Chamber of Commerce. And I think you're members of a couple different, are you members of Rocklin, Roseville?
Rocklin, Roseville, East Sacramento, Fair Oaks, pretty much.
Yeah.
Lincoln. So we're part of 5 or 6 of the
And then I've run into you at, I think, Celebrity Waiter Lunch for Lighthouse Counseling.
Yep.
That's one I think was talking to your marketing. I'm blanking on her name. Jeannie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Celebrity Waiter Lunch, Heartstrings.
We try to be part of what, my wife really handles that interaction with the community. And there's not a day goes by she doesn't get touched by people trying to get us to spend our money. We have to be,
right.
Like I said, we're in business to create value for our shareholders, and it's a very long-term commitment to the restaurant business. Is not a short-term investment. It
Right.
takes a long time to build business and grow business.
Mm-hmm.
So she's cognizant of that, but we also realize that if we're not in the community, we try to make that our, really how we advertise is through the community.
Yeah, that's the most, those really important, those connections. And, you and I are a good example of that where, we've been working together. I think how many times we've washed windows at Bennett's between
Right.
3 locations. It's a blessing. You talked about some of your food and maybe the inspiration of your menus and how you source the food here, to what local do you try and source locally? Or you mentioned Neiman Ranch, I think, where you get most of your meats.
Well, some of our meats come from
Yeah.
Neiman Ranch.
Okay.
But not everything. Not everything comes from anybody all the time, because in business you have to consider quality, quantity, and price, right?
Sure.
So we have to be looking for the right price so we can do what we do. And we have to be looking for the right quality, because just because you can get price doesn't mean it's quality.
Yeah.
So we serve a lot of prime rib. So we're in the market looking at prime rib from all kinds of different providers, right? In for the first couple months of this year, we were able to buy all natural prime rib from a ranch in California, which we were really pleased to get.
Yeah.
We got a great deal, but that deal ends in 3 months. It ends, but in the meantime, we beautiful red Angus, prime rib. We sell prime rib every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in our restaurants. So we sell 10 to 12, full loins of prime rib in every restaurant. So that's 36 pieces a week, And so if you can get it for $12 a pound or $10 a pound, which is 15, we play that market almost every week. We're looking at. We have criteria, but we have to source. So
I love being on your mailing list too, because I get these alerts for prime rib, Thanksgiving dinner, corned beef and cabbage for which you just had St. Patrick's Day.
For St. Patrick's Day, and all I do. So we have to look at from a food sourcing perspective. We have to look at who's doing it, right? So in the produce industry, there's a bunch of packers. They grow most of everything in the Salinas Valley, and then they move it in the summertime. In the wintertime in Salinas Valley, right? Summertime they go down to Nogales and down to Southern California, way down.
Further and further south.
They go further and south, and then they come back and then it comes back.
Yeah.
So it's the same brand. You'll see it. You can see it. They have different brands for different prices. So if you buy, if they pick romaine lettuce and they're a little tipped on the top, frostbit, it goes over here. So you just have to be conscious of who does that. And we have really good suppliers that manage that for us. And we buy whole products. So when you eat lettuce in our restaurants, most restaurants buy lettuce in a bag.
Yep.
Right? It's already cut. Okay. So that means when it's cut, it's got gas in it, and an inert gas that keeps it fresh. That's how cut lettuce stays fresh to getting to New York City on a train or on a truck, right?
Okay.
When it gets cut, by law, it has to be washed in a solution of bleach and water to keep the bacteria off it so that people don't get sick when you eat it. Now, you see the recalls all the time about cut lettuce. We cut every bit of lettuce every day from real heads of lettuce in our restaurant, and it gets washed every day in our restaurants. We have a variety of baby lettuces that come in for us that we've been able to get from our growers. They come in fresh every day, and they cut fresh baby lettuce for our salads every day. Our salad greens, when you look at it, when next time you have a salad, you look at it, there's 5 or 6 different kinds of lettuce plus cabbage in that mix, and we add cabbage so that there's a little bit of crunch because we use so much leaf lettuce, So that kind of stuff is what we do.
I can relate to that from when I worked for Chipotle. They had a term called food with integrity.
Right.
And they, the extra time it takes, what you just described is, they would get the whole heads of romaine.
Right.
And you're trimming it, and and we did little taste tests of if you taste the tip of it or the base of it, and those are the best pieces. So they had very specific ways of how to prepare a head of lettuce. I learned how to cut 50 pounds of onions in 35 minutes.
Right.
So
I bet you did.
I learned how to dice an onion, a very specific way. But that's one of the things when you have a business like that, and yours is growing to where you got 3 locations, and ours where we add vans.
Right.
It's like, is everybody cutting the onion the same way? So all of the pieces are the same size, and like when you're eating salsa at Chipotle or the guacamole, the onion is always the same size cube.
Right, and my thing is I don't want it the same size. So I want them to dice the onion if it says dice. Yeah. But I'm not really, if it's a little off, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Authenticity to that.
It's homemade. Anyone can have a perfectly cut onion out of a bag. But if you see an odd shaped onion or a radish that isn't perfectly thin, or you see things like that, you look at our desserts, for example, they're all handmade here. And sometimes the crust falls off part, and the guy goes, "Oh, we can't serve." I'll go, "Oh, yes, we can serve that." I want people to know that just like you bake at home, sometimes that little piece gets cracked. Yeah. We make our desserts, everything but ice cream, we make in our restaurants. So every pastry, every chocolate gets melted from real Colombian chocolate. We make pastry cream. We do all of that stuff. We could buy desserts, but there's no authenticity there. And plus, they don't taste as good as the stuff we make. We could do a cheaper lettuce mix and take 10 hours a week out of our prep by opening a bag and dumping it in. But it's not the same, it's not the same lettuce, And so food comes from what we like. If we don't like it, if we don't make it, if we wouldn't serve it at our house, you're not getting it in our restaurants. Just kind of that way.
Anything about Brian Bennett that we don't know that you want to...
Oh, you don't want to know anything else about me. What I want people to know about us, and I think they do, but is that we're passionate about everything we do, that we care about the communities that we live in, and that we're here. Obviously, we're here to trade. So we want more people in our restaurants to experience what we're doing. There's lots of reasons to come in, but we really have built a great organization, and we love sharing that with people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that shows. Yeah. And I think kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation when you talked about just opening your house, and that's what you're doing to every customer.
We sure hope that's our goal. Yeah,
inviting people over. When I think about kind of what we've covered today, and what I see is maybe for both of our businesses that there's a culture, there's a focus on quality, there is a letting go and letting people lead that I think is really powerful. There's the connection to our community and helping people grow. And I think I'm training these 2 new guys that just started with us, and I'm like, these, they're just like it's Rocklin. You can see what impact we can have in people's lives. I think that comes down to where we get fulfillment out of our job, and is there's
watching people grow is a killer way to, to feel, complimented without people saying anything, right?
Yep.
Watching people grow in our organization is fantastic.
I have a young man I ran into recently, and I hired him as a window cleaner. And we have a system. When we get to the job, we start at the front door, and he's going to the right, I'm going to the left, and we'll meet in the back of the house. And I'm figuring that I'll get about, I'll beat him to the halfway point. And I hear him coming around the corner after, I'm only on the first wall, and he's already meeting me. I'm like, "Nathaniel, how did you get so much done?" And he says, "Well, I didn't get them all done because there was an air conditioner in the way, and there was a rose bush in the way on that window, and I wasn't sure if I should wash the slider." And then wait, we need to talk. I said, "You never skip a window. You're always going to encounter obstacles. And when you counter that, how are you going to get above the air conditioner? You can use a pole, you can get your ladder and reach across. There's all these different things. In the rose bush, maybe we could get a strap around it and you could ask for help and I could pull the rose bush back." And he said, John, that conversation has stuck with me throughout my life, because when we hit obstacles, and they're going to be there, but you can't skip a window. And we always find those spots in our life where, boy, I'd like to skip that one. But we find a way to do it. Yeah. And then kind of where you think of all of the things we've talked about to bring people into your restaurant, the best marketing is what's happening within the four walls of each of your locations. But do you have any thoughts or parting comments you wanted to?
No, you know what?
This has been really fun
to spend some time with you and talk about your business and how you've impacted ours, because you do help and your company does help us. And just, it's been a great time to share. Thank you.
Yeah, we might have to do a part 2. I feel like we could go on.
We probably could.
Our lives.
I think there's people around us right now that'd rather go. They have other things to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, you were getting ready to start your not quite lunch, but it's about lunchtime here at the Lone Tree location. Brian, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So it was a good day.